would like to say that I think it's a bit shameful actually that the scientific community and whatever organizations haven't really spent more energy into trying to figure this out. This is just, you know, a few people doing it, pulling all this mass up here. I mean, really, that's very strange to me because it's a true mystery. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about there is a true mystery here. I still think if you're a scientist and you're interested in UAP or UFO, whatever you call it, and you're applying for money and you really write something that is true and honest about that it actually is UAP, then I think still you may run into some challenges.
Some issues. If you're honest and say this is what we're looking after, you're not going to get approved.
Chris Lado, welcome to Lado Files.
Okay, I am here with Magnus. He has taken over for Erling Strand. You were just telling me about a ceremonial key handing ceremony here at the Blue Box. Yeah. So how did that go?
Well, that was in August. That was the first time I met Erling Strand, actually. But I've talked to him many times before that. I mean, we all kind of came together here in Hesstalen, and then we went up to the Blue Box. We fixed some stuff that was broken together, and then he handed over the key to me and said, "Now you're the guy."
Okay.
And that was emotional in a way. At least if you're a Hessdalen Phenomenon fan, I would say, because Erling Strand is kind of a symbolic pioneer of the whole effort to actually try to get some data out of this. And the Blue Box is a result of mainly his efforts to do that.
So you feel a responsibility, but you seem excited about it, motivated.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it, but I also feel responsibility, and it's not that I mean, it takes time, and we will need to do a lot of things to get some more data. But I'm really interested in pursuing that personally, and yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and our cameraman Arnold, he was just saying that in 1998 you were here. He was here when they built the Blue Box. So can you just tell us about it, Magnus?
Yeah. So sure, the Blue Box. Yeah, as you see, it's a container. It's blue. That's why it's called the Blue Box. And there is a mast or antenna or whatever you call it, where you can see a lot of cameras. And many or several of these cameras actually came up in 1998. And there has been a few swaps. And then you see there is actually a radar on top, a Ray Marine radar, which is unfortunately not working anymore. And then there is some other like weather station, and there is an antenna, high frequency antenna there. I think that's for the ADS-B. We have an ADS-B receiver for air traffic, and some more instruments.
And you were just mentioning this box over here is from the university. Is that correct? The students actually put in this camera system?
So there are kind of multiple universities involved in here. There's mainly two. This is Hessdalen University in southern Norway, and it's the University of Würzburg in Germany. And our German friends put up that camera in that metallic box on top of the Blue Box. It's not operational currently, but we have plans to actually upgrade that, install new cameras with new software, and start scanning the sky with more modern equipment. Most of the cameras up here are analog cameras from the late 90s.
I see. There's one. I know. I talked to Fred, and he mentioned. Is that a UFO DAP actual system there?
Well, actually, yeah, that's the camera I put up recently,
And you installed that?
Actually, okay. I bought it. I financed it myself, and I put it up. And the plan is to have some kind of. It's not the real deal in terms of the best camera, but it's something to work on during the winter, and I will try to. Connected to the UFO software to actually have an autonomous system that can actually detect light, and also it's a pan tilt and zoom camera. So I hope that I can get these tracking features running and actually track it. And I mean, but right now I can have it on my mobile screen or just a video stream. Okay. But I don't have the software. Well, it's not working yet that it can actually track automatically, but it will, I hope.
And this is part of the effort. So that's one of the cameras you install, but you mentioned installing more cameras, right?
Yeah.
For the valley?
So down in the valley here, I have 3 more cameras that I've installed, and two of them are actually in the kind of the lowest point of the valley. There's a river called the Hessdalen River, and it's not very broad. It's quite narrow at some points. So then I thought, and I heard these stories about orbs flying just above the water on the river.
Through the river.
Yeah.
Over the valley. Okay.
Yeah, so I thought that, well, why not put up a camera that's short range and like a trail cam. There's 2 trail cams that are thermal, that reacts on thermal heat. So if anything moves past the camera, they have higher temperature than the surrounding, then it will start taking high definition video of it.
This seemed really interesting. I really hadn't heard this before. You know, we've been talking about night. That seems like near IR, you know, night vision type devices. But Magnus talking about thermal. So if you get any sort of heat from these lights, is what you've been trying to determine is what are the lights, right? And we were talking yesterday about, I guess Massimo is the astrophysicist. We can go into more detail with him, but it doesn't match a plasma burning, for instance. The spectrograph is very strange. It matches a star, actually, starlight.
Yeah, it's very broad spectrum, and you call it a black body radiator, meaning more or less there is so much energy that all the frequencies are populated. But in a plasma, it's typically a specific gas or a few type of gases or elements that burns, and you get these quite sharp spectral lines on the spectrum.
Based on the color, right? Like if it's a green neon gas, it should give an exact spectrograph, right?
Yeah. So it's but that being said, I think one of the really most kind of dear, I would say, projects or data that my colleague Massimo, the astrophysicist, wants to do is to have a more accurate spectrograph deployed here in Hesstalen, and actually based on a pan and tilt and zoom camera mount, where all these things comes into play even more, because we want to be able to track and zoom in with a high definition camera and actually with a spectrograph on it, and take some at least medium resolution spectrograms. That would give a lot of info, but that's complex. I mean, you need to have all the tracking, and it's quite a lot of mass to turn, and a lot of engineering challenges with that.
That's why I like the thermal idea, because especially here, if we're looking at a cold environment, if you see a hot body, something with heat, then it seems like an easy way to identify it, to track it.
Yeah, and obviously we should have thermal cameras up here as well. I mean, real military grade, hopefully, thermal cameras that could do their own. Well, you can scan parallel both the optical and the thermal spectrum. But those cameras are quite expensive that have a high resolution thermal cameras. And that's typically military grade tech, which is quite expensive these days. And but it's in the plan for sure. Yeah.
And this was the blue box actually captured the famous photo or the famous video, right? Was it? So it's over this valley?
Yeah, it was flying. So it was actually just a couple of months after this one came up. There was this light. So this system is still up and running. It's an alarm camera that does some kind of motion detection, and it did detect a light, and it recorded, and it was actually on a VHS recorder. Wow. Back in the days. Now it's digital, of course, but and it started recording, and this light looks like this blobbish light, but you can clearly see that's a UAP. I mean, no doubt about it. Even with the cameras having not that high resolution, it was a smoking gun at the time. But unfortunately, the blue box has not captured that good videos after that. But it produces a lot of false alarms. So there are thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures. All of them are saved. That we should actually post-process it with some AI and see if there's anything we have missed. Probably there is.
Because Erling's, he's been doing the actual manual, right? He goes through in the morning,
Yeah.
I guess, and checks through. But I mean, can you do that really every day for more than 20 years?
Well, yeah, he has done a fantastic job. I mean, really manually every day going through, and some days there are a lot of false alarms, just because the software is old that detects, and we rather see more false alarms than miss out something, and rather have a more manual work than miss out a really goodie, right?
Yes. At least it's saved, so you can use you can use AI when it comes online.
Yeah.
For that easier.
Yeah, so that's the plan, and I'm sure we will go through all the old images and with some automated process in the future and try to see. There might be more, but of course what you also see is this, which is muon or cosmic ray type of reaction in the sensor. So you can see these streaks of light, and because there are one of the light types, we are like the short lasting flashes light.
Yes.
And then you can,
that's the most common, right? The flash.
the flash. We saw it yesterday. Well, one of us
yes.
said he saw it. But cosmic ray or muon interaction with the camera sensor can also give that streakish thingy. But it's just a high energy particle coming from space, or actually from the reaction of cosmic rays with the atmosphere. Muons, a heavy electron type, and it goes into the sensor, and it can like, whoosh, it looks like a streak, but it's not actually an object out there. It's just a reaction directly in the sensor. Yeah.
Okay.
So you see some of those, but because they're kind of similar to that flashing Hessdalen, you kind of get stuck on those. But yeah.
Can you explain just a little bit for the audience here on the layout of the valley? You know, what we're looking at, the white box.
So we are in a kind of we are in not the middle of, but to the more northern part of Hesstalen. Hesstalen stretches from north to south.
Okay.
And we are in the 1/3 northernmost part. So the access road is from that direction. That's to the north. And we come in here, so it's not very straight. Here it's pretty straight, you can see north-south, but then in the north end there is a little bit like zigzagging, and there have been a lot of observations north of here as well. And to the south we have the two lakes to the very south of the valley. It's like 10 plus kilometers away, and so the valley is rather linear in this part, the central part of the valley, and you can see it's quite relatively narrow. But over there you see that summit, that's the Finnsohögda summit, and you see there is a kind of a dip behind the forest line.
Yes.
And that's a whole plateau called Vårhusvollan, and a lot of lights has been seen. And actually 2 days after I put up that new camera, I was just, without having automation, just looking at the stream, I actually saw an orb. And I hit the record button, and I have 16 times zoom, but I actually managed to zoom past the light. But when I zoomed back, the light was still there, and it was moving. And it was not like an airplane. I caught airplanes, they look completely different. And it was very, very close to the terrain orb. And then it looked like it, not like it disappeared instantly, but if you really do frame by frame, it looks like it accelerates and goes away in a kind of a bow, not a completely linear movement. And then it turns up in the corner, much brighter, and also moves in a kind of curves, and then it goes away. Well, actually I turned off because I didn't see that one, so I turned off the recording. But that was crazy, just 2 days after the new camera came up. And that was without iOS automation, right?
Yes.
If that would have been connected in the right way with having the right software, we could have had a really good view of a Hessdalen light object. I call it light object because I think there are hybrids. I mean, there are objects of a sort because they have been caught on radar.
Yes.
And we typically see that as objects, even though there are weather radars that looks at temperature gradients and clouds. I think these are, I like to call them objects.
And we talked yesterday about the geological underlying minerals and the copper. There's so many mines around here. We passed a bunch of mines coming down, driving here, these old mines and still active mines, right? They do that. They did the helicopters, basically checking the magnetic geologic magnetism in the area. What is that theory on the battery theory? I don't know if it's yours or not, but
No, it's
you
not. It's not
explain it?
mine. But I can subscribe to parts of it. But so there was a big publication journal. I think it was Science. They published a paper in 2012, I think, saying Hesstalen, the natural battery, case closed, more or less.
Okay.
But there is a very special. Well, it's not very special for the whole of Norway, and especially not for the whole region. But there is like very sharp lines. So one of the sides of the valley has a lot of quartz-rich stone, and the other one has a lot of metal-rich. And when you have quartz, if you have some kind of seismic movement or movement in the ground, it can induce very high voltages. And then there is a conductive power or conductive elements like the metal-rich rock. And then there is the Hessa River, and there is sulfur coming out of the old sulfur mine. And sulfur you can get sulfuric acid, which is an electrolyte for a battery. So you kind of have the ingredients of a sort. But one problem has always been, where is this energy? And we think that estimates made on the light, strength of the light and distance indicates there is a lot of power coming out of this light.
Out of the light, yeah.
A lot of power. And if you go, one scientist, he went down to Hessa River and he took a cable and connected one side of the river and then to the other, and he measured 1 volt. That's not enough for anything. But then I heard the story about up in the southern part where we have this research station called the White Box.
Yep.
They have cables in the ground and they measured 20,000 volt. And then we were starting to talk lightning type of voltages. It could, but even if that would explain the energy, this natural battery and the lights are all explained by some kind of plasma, and the plasma model is shaky at the least, because if plasma goes up here in the atmosphere, it will blow away immediately or disperse. And we have talked about light observation, coherent, uniformly sized light or even constellation are lasting for hours. Yes. And that's really, really hard to explain with the plasma model. I say, I'm not a plasma physicist, but I think it's hard to explain it with that type of. But it could be a combination of it all, right?
And then finally, you mentioned some kind of interesting ideas, I thought, on drones. So using type of a drone system to really get close to the lights, because you have videos of them, you have many thousands of photos, but it's not enough, it seems like, to really figure out what it is. And it feels like we could get there with drones, but what's the basic idea? What do you envision? What's the ideal, no limit on money, what would you do?
So I had it coming into this project. I really had that as one of my kind of favorite ideas, what to do with Hesstalen. Of course, need more cameras, higher quality. That would be great. Totally. Radar, of course. I have some experience from military radar, and I love radar. I think that could help. But still, if we could, with this kind of remote sensing, see that light, we want to get close to it, because there are observations talking about structure and things like that. And what about magnetic fields? And what kind of thermal cameras have, as we discussed previously, has been used way too little here in Hesstalen. There should be much more use of thermal. And so, but what if we had a drone that could maybe trigger on a sensor network, static sensor, that is like this. This is one of the sensors, and it would be a drone in a box for Arctic conditions. The drone would be deployed, and it would go towards the triangulated location of that light object or whatever, and get as close as possible with as many onboard instruments as possible, like electric, magnetic, optical, thermal, spectrograph. Even if we could put it would need quite a heavy drone, but still. And then my craziest idea is to actually have a drone that could throw a net.
The net, I love the net. Because this exists. They have actually.
There are companies building these drones it's really awesome to see it in action. So what they actually do is that they kind of predict the flight path of a UAV, say, and then it positions itself in a way that it can catch it, and then it ejects a net. And then the net is tied to a parachute.
Okay.
So they can actually parachute them down. And I would love to do that on a Hessdalen light. I mean, nobody has, I mean, even being close, or I mean, there are even few zoomed in pictures of them. But what about being so close?
A few meters, you know, or
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, stalk it a little bit. What happens? I mean, we don't know. Radiation. What's happened? It could a lot of strange things could happen because we don't know what these lights are, right? So I would love to do that, but that's quite a complex project. But
and Mr. Snow, he's kind of on the other side, right? He says that maybe it's the phenomenon we shouldn't be shooting at it or trying to hit it with things or poke it. You know,
yeah,
I don't know.
but I mean, I agree. I mean, I have you know, a basic fundamental respect for whatever happens here. Of that, I would not like to shoot on them, really.
Yes. But we were talking this morning, a story of I think he's 86-year-old man that was here. I think he passed, but he wishes that he shot at it.
Yeah,
right?
he's the guy. Well, he's still alive.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, it's and he has seen it all. He has so many stories, and he's been here. He grew up here, and he's seen most and heard most. Seen a lot of them himself, but he said that I think it was that guy who said that if I regret anything, it would be not shooting at them. Just because, I mean, it's been around for a long time, and nobody has an explanation for them. It's just, but we have to remember another very peculiar thing that happened in the first field, you know, massive field study made here in maybe was it 84, 85 by Strand, the guy who put this up later. He actually he had a very weak laser that he like a portable small laser. I think it was only 5 milliwatts, and he actually, when you saw the light, you saw the multiple pulsating lights, and they had a very accurate pulsating frequency of 1 hertz, I think, if I remember correctly. And he shone a laser on it, and it doubled the pulsation frequency. And they repeated that 7 or 8 times.
Wow.
A super weak 5 milliwatts laser. I mean, given the distance and the weakness, it's like it's tickling. I mean, whatever it is, it's absolutely not enough to actually change any configuration in anything. In my mind, it's more like a communication signal. And so I would like to have a laser here as well. But then we start talking about, you know, other, you know, getting the permits for having lasers.
Yeah, emitting is difficult.
Yeah, and I would love to have LiDAR, of course. I mean, LiDAR. We have plans for doing some LiDAR survey here. And I would like to have a live LiDAR going crazy here, and all this stuff. I mean, there are so many things we could do if we just, you know, had the people and the money and the will to do it.
Yeah.
Which I think we have.
Yeah. You definitely have the will. I mean, we hiked up here 200 meters up in the snow. You came up yesterday, even though you're, you know, basically sick, you know, at the time. So,
yeah. I think I'm actually destined to do this. I've been interested in Hessdalen lights since the early 90s. And I'm a Swede, so I lived in Sweden at the time, and I thought one day, already as a kid, one day, I will get involved somehow. I don't know how and when, but one day. And then just this spring, I kind of got that hint from the inside of myself, but this is the time. And it was actually perfect timing because we were just the other guys were just rebooting the old project Hesstalen.
Yes.
And I just came in and introduced myself, and I said, hey,
I'm ready to work.
Yeah, and they said, perfect, you're most welcome.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, excellent. Okay, well, we have the boats are arriving. So the boats are arriving shortly. We're going to go down. Any other thoughts you want to say or show about the blue box here?
Well, I think this blue box has done a fantastic job. I mean, most of the stuff is still running here after all these years, more than 20 years, which is amazing. But we really need to upgrade, and I think that, I mean, we want to have multiple of these things, and would like to say that I think it's a bit shameful actually that the scientific community and whatever organizations haven't really spent more energy into trying to figure this out This is just, you know, a few people doing it, pulling all this mass up here. I mean, really, I think that's very strange to me, because it's a true mystery. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about there is a true mystery here.
Well, we were talking last night about the stigma, and it really just seems like the stigma is interfering in this sort of scientific research, you know, but maybe that's changing.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and I'm even if kind of in a general public that it's kind of lightening up, and because we have all these disclosures and and the data, we got some data of these UAPs and stuff. But I still think if you're a scientist and you're interested in UAP or UFO, whatever you call it, and you're applying for money and you really write something that is true and honest about that it actually is UAP, then I think still you may run into some challenges.
Some issues. If you're honest and say this is what we're looking after, you're not going to get approved. But if you say we're looking for possible geological battery technology, maybe they'll apply.
Yeah, and we will try that. And I
We'll
actually, when I came into the project, one of the first things I said was that from this day I will call them the Hessdalen energy objects, because we know they have a lot of energy. And I mean, they have actually been measured on radar on ballistic missile speeds, which is crazy.
That's a great point, because you know, at least in my brain, if I think light, I don't think of a physical object, you know, like the Aurora Borealis.
Yeah.
You know, no sound up there. It's kind of just something ethereal. But that's not really what this is. You know, if you're talking about it, what you guys have seen is the radar returns, the energy. I think that's not a bad idea, actually, calling it Hessdalen energy or changing the name.
Yeah.
Like UAP, you know, UFO couldn't touch it. You know, no one can touch UFO, but when you change it to UAP, all of a sudden, we can have a meeting about that. It's not about UFOs, it's about UAPs. So, I don't know, but I wish you guys all the luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll try.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That was good.
Good having you here.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's fun.
Amazing interview there with Magnus. I really enjoyed it. I learned a ton of stuff. And if you look at this video of the Aurora Borealis, this was on the last night. I was driving with Magnus. He was taking me to his dry cabin that he had rented right around the corner here. And we were looking eyes to the sky the whole time, looking for any sort of lights. And I had noticed kind of a weird band of light. Maybe it was cloud in the distance, but there was no clouds. And I think it was the actual northern lights here. Just a beautiful display. I have seen them in Alaska maybe a dozen times before, but the colors here were really nice with the reds and the greens and the yellows. So beautiful. And maybe this is a tip, you know, it's telling us it's a plasma. That's what Aurora is, really, is a plasma. And if you look there, Magnus, he's pretty humble, but he is almost done with his doctorate, actually, in physics. He works with AI. He has a ton of knowledge, and he actually stayed longer in the Swedish military. They have to do required service, but he stayed longer so that he could actually use that RBS-90 is a thermal, and I believe they have radar, anti-aircraft missile system. And he did it because in the future, years down the road, he knew or wanted to actually use that knowledge to actually go after the Hessdalen lights and capture the stuff with thermal, all those ideas, very exciting stuff. So if you guys want to help, you can go to Project Hesstalen. Don't forget about the contest. Any ideas to help these guys out? Maybe you can make a video and do hashtag UAP DeSci in the title. And the end of November, we will pick 2 winners and pay you $1,000 and $500 respectively. Finally, please smash the like button. If you haven't, subscribe to get future notifications. I know a lot of people are waiting on the status of the dive at Gypsum Lake, and I am going through all of the footage, and we are waiting for the final results. So you'll have to see it on Friday, but getting that out as soon as I can. I want to make it a good product for all the guys working really hard, spending a lot of time and money and energy up in Hesstalen. So here's to you guys. Thank you so much for the trip. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Go to patreon.com/Chris Lato to get more content, or become a YouTube member as well. I'm posting additional exclusive videos on both those platforms, different content. Thanks everyone. Have a great day. Peace.